throw you a curveball today. Are you ready? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about angels. Yeah, angels. Angels are pretty fascinating, I would say, aren't they? They make their appearances throughout the Bible at these interesting times, very often bringing messages, special messages from God. In fact, the word angel actually means messenger. In the Bible, we see them interacting with humans, sometimes engaging in battle, which means that they are actually capable of interacting with the physical world, even though they are spiritual type beings. And that interaction often includes fighting and protecting. Did you know that there are over 300 references to angels in the Bible, both in the Old Testament and the New Testament? There are even hints in the writings of the prophets Ezekiel and Isaiah that some of the angels followed Satan in a rebellion against God and were kicked out of heaven. Some Bible scholars are actually super confident in their interpretation that Satan himself was actually a fallen angel. Me, I don't know. I'm not so sure. There are strange stories in the book of Genesis about the sons of God. The sons of God was a phrase used in the Bible sometimes about angelic beings. And those sons of God are written about in the book of Genesis as having relationships. You know, those kind of relationships with mankind. And out of those relationships produced offspring that were called the Nephilim. The Nephilim were sort of an Old Testament cosmic biracial tribe of people. Honestly, with hundreds of occurrences in the Bible, angels seem to come and go without much explanation of who they are and what they do, other than these really powerful, profound things. One of the few places that gives any information about what angels are is in the first couple of chapters of the book of Hebrews in the New Testament, where the author writes that the Jews of that day believed that when Moses, you remember Moses, maybe one of the 2 or 3 most important characters, certainly in the Old Testament, but maybe even the whole Bible as well. Writes that the Jews of that day believed that Moses received the word of the law on Mount Sinai. You know, the 10 Commandments, that Moses received the 10 Commandments and that he received them from God, delivered by angels. It's there, along with some other places. I believe that we can learn the most important thing, maybe the single most important thing in the Bible about angels. We can learn it right there in the book of Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. We've referenced these 2 verses before many times. It says there that the Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being. I want to read that again. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. In other words, in Jesus, we see everything that we need to see, and we know everything that we need to know about God right there in the person of Jesus. And then in verse 4 it says, so he became as much superior to the angels as the name he has inherited is superior to theirs. Jesus is no angel. In fact, everywhere in the Bible, it was never really about the angels. It's always been about Jesus. Fascination with angels and spirit beings is never the goal. Attention to Jesus always is. It seems as if the Bible it's like it's intentionally vague about angels. You know, this past Sunday after church, we went out to lunch with a group of people. We always go out to lunch. It's often a different group of people. And this past week, I got there a little late, and I ended up getting to sit at a table with one of the newer guys that comes to North Point. His name is Igor. And I thought I knew something about him, but boy, was I surprised. I had no idea he had such an interest in and understanding of the Bible. And I think he had me captive, honestly. And I enjoyed it. I was learning, I was asking questions of him, and he was asking questions about me, and we were getting to know each other some. And all of a sudden, he asked me this really, really deep question out of the Bible. And I said to him, Igor, I don't think you're going to be satisfied much with my answer to your question. And he kind of reared back just a little bit. I said, I don't want you to get me wrong. I'm not trying to act like it's not important. But my answer to your question is, I don't know. I don't know what that means. And we talked about it some. And then he goes, well, I have another question. And it was just night and day from the one question that he asked. He went in a complete different direction in the Bible, and he asked the question. And I said, okay, don't get frustrated with me, but my answer to that question is the same as my answer to the first question you asked, and that's, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And I find that I say that about many things. That's what I say about angels. There's so much I don't know. But what I do know is that the glimpses we get of angels, they are always meant to glorify God, not themselves. They're always meant to draw attention to Jesus, not to draw attention to who they are. And I guess that brings us to the heart of the Christmas story. The author of Hebrews knew that, because just a sentence later in the first chapter, he writes, and again, when God brings his firstborn into the world, he says, let all God's angels worship him. When God brings his firstborn into the world, let all God's angels worship him. More than anything else, Christmas is about worship. Oh, we make it about so many other things, including making it about ourselves. But Christmas is about worship today, just as it was on that first Christmas morning in Bethlehem. The birth of Jesus Christ must be about worship before it is about anything else. And we see that most clearly from angels. As Christmas approaches, you can't avoid angels. They turn up in the most obvious places and places that you least expect. They turn up in Christmas carols at the shopping malls and stores. Angels turn up in greeting cards, in nativity sets, and on top of decorated trees to bring Christmas cheer and bells that jingle. Yeah, that's what happens in our culture. But just like the God of creation disguised himself as a baby in a manger, angelic purpose can get lost in wrapping paper and eggnog. Get this. The most high and holy God of everything that is entered history and became real flesh and blood in order that humanity would no longer need to be bound by history. And a fact like that needed the proper announcement. A fact like that needed angels, a host of angels, an army of angels, maybe even all of the angels. Christmas represents the greatest expression of unconditional love the world has ever known. And the angels knew it. And they were there in that moment 2,000 years ago to do one thing: to worship, just like we are to do today. Listen to these famous words. Suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared, with the angel praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." Yeah, that's the Christmas story. And don't ever forget, the angels are front and center doing their job. Let's not forget to do ours this Christmas. Let's worship the King of Kings, born in a manger. Till next time, see ya.